Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're diving into a really critical moment in history. It's a time when a whole civilization built this perfect, incredible fortress out of pure logic, only to find out they'd accidentally locked themselves inside. They had this flawless map of the universe, but it was somehow draining all the meaning out of the world. By the 12th century, you have these brilliant minds, people like the mathematician Omar Khayyam, who had pushed reason to its absolute limit. This guy calibrated the calendar with almost perfect accuracy. He saw the cosmos as this magnificent, predictable machine. But in figuring it all out, he found himself looking at a universe that was just cold, silent, and completely indifferent to whether we live or die. And this intellectual architecture, the one perfected by masters like Avicenna, it was a true marvel. It was this logical fortress that could explain everything, from how medicine works to the very nature of God. But for all its perfection, something was going wrong. It was creating a crisis of the soul. Yeah, the system was coherent, but it felt cold. It was orderly, but it felt empty. And let's be clear, the problem wasn't logic itself. Not at all. The problem is what happens when logic is the only tool you're using. It's that classic danger of mistaking the map for the actual territory. So who was at the top of this fortress? The master defender of this whole rational system? That would be Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Think of him as the superstar professor of his day. He was the head of the most prestigious university in Baghdad, the chief architect of the entire intellectual order. His job, basically, was to prove how perfect this system was.
Well, in 1095, right at the absolute peak of his career, Ghazali just collapses. It's a total system failure. The story goes that one day, right in the middle of a lecture, he just couldn't speak. The words wouldn't come out. He had this terrifying realization that for all its brilliance, reason could only map the cage. It couldn't open the door to real lived experience.
This personal crisis forced a really radical pivot. And not just for him, but for a whole civilization's way of thinking about the world. It was nothing short of a jailbreak from the prison of pure logic, an escape into the wild terrain of the heart. Ghazali's journey was a complete deconstruction of his old self. He literally walked away from everything. His job, his fame, his wealth. He went from being at the absolute pinnacle of the intellectual world to becoming a wandering seeker, totally alone, spending a decade searching for a truth that he knew he couldn't find in any book. When Ghazali finally came back, he had a new answer. He argued that the most powerful organ we have for perceiving reality isn't our brain, it's the heart. And the method it uses is what he called taste, or direct experience. You see his point, right? You can read 1,000 books about honey, describe its chemical properties, understand its viscosity, but you don't know honey until you actually taste it. So Ghazali laid a whole new foundation. He made it okay, even necessary, to trust direct experience. But the soul's fortress needed a new blueprint. It needed a bridge, some way to connect the rational mind he had mastered with the intuitive heart he had just discovered. And the thinker who provided that blueprint was Suhrawardi, a brilliant and honestly pretty controversial mystic. He looked at this split between logic and intuition and said, this is a false choice. He argued that they weren't enemies at all. In fact, they were like two eyes on the same face. You need both of them to truly see. Suhrawardi's big solution was to propose a third world. This is fascinating. He said it wasn't the physical world you can touch, and it wasn't the abstract world of pure ideas. It was an in-between realm, a place he called the mundus imaginalis, or the imaginal world, where things like symbols and dreams and archetypes exist as real, perceivable entities made of light. Now, for Suhrawardi, this imaginal world was the true home of art and myth. He argued that our imagination isn't just a fantasy generator, it's a sensory organ. It's actually designed to perceive this archetypical realm. So a poem or a myth, from this point of view, isn't a lie. It's a report from a very real place. Okay, so we've got a new foundation in direct experience and a blueprint for this incredible imaginal world. But the fortress of the soul still needs a functional courtyard, a practical way for people to actually live together, especially when the world outside is starting to fall apart. And for this part, we have to turn to the poet Sadi. He was a survivor of the Mongol invasions, so he saw firsthand what happens when society just completely collapses. And he realized that rigid state laws are not enough. You need a kind of social physics, a fluid etiquette to manage all the day-to-day friction between people.
Saadi helped engineer a social technology called Tear-Off. Now, this is so much more than just being polite. Think of it like a social shock absorber. It's a whole set of protocols that are designed to lower the friction in every social interaction, creating this buffer of mutual respect and minimizing all those ego clashes.
So, the final stage of this new architecture was to integrate all of these pieces: the reason, the direct experience, the imagination, and the social grace into a brand new ideal for what it means to be human. The new synthesis that came out of all this was called Irfan, or Gnosis, and its central metaphor is just beautiful: the two-winged bird. The whole argument is that the soul needs both the wing of reason and the wing of intuition to actually get off the ground. If you only have one, you're just going to fly around in circles. This created a new ideal. You could call it the full-stack human. It's this idea of a scholar saint who could navigate both the material world and the imaginal world. It's someone who understands that, yeah, logic is the ladder you use to climb, but direct vision, that's the breathtaking view you get when you finally reach the roof. So this intricate inner architecture was finally perfected. Just as this civilization had built this portable fortress of the soul that was independent of any physical building, the banners of the Golden Horde appeared on the horizon, ready to burn their entire world to the ground.